It's a very exciting time. I'm trying out the Joblink probes on the system at my house. I'm starting everything up. We have our 2 pipe clamps right there. Then we have our 2 pressure probes and the 2 psychometric probes. They start appearing on the app as soon as you start turning them on. They popped up right away, no issues. I'm setting 1 probe on the return itself at the grill. It's a relatively mild day, so we shouldn't have too much duct loss, although it does play a small part in it. And here's one I set in the supply in my son's room. My probe's disconnected and reconnected, as you see right here. One of them's reconnected. I came down to my shop to get a couple items. Now they're both connected. As you can see, my shop is quite a distance from the house, and both those probes are inside the house. So we're looking at probably about 100 to 150 foot away from the probes and inside of the house on top of that. We're sitting out at the old Goodman unit. My Goodman unit, as you see, it's a 1998 PHJ 036-10, 3-ton, 10 kW heat strips. We're going to open up the panel here, put our clamps on the inside, then hook up our probes down here to the connections, and see how she's running. We are looking in at the heart of the beast there. I don't know if you guys can see it, but right in there is the Bristol compressor. We have a reversing valve right there since this is a heat pump. Old Goodman. So I've cleaned off a couple spots on the pipe, right here on the liquid line, right here on the suction line coming back from the evaporator. We're gonna see what we got right here. See this red symbol? That means this is for the liquid line. You have to get it right on there so it makes a good connection. As you see, it makes a good connection. This one's for suction line. Open it up. You can see there's no connection there. So we got to make sure there's a good connection. And both of them have a good connection right there because they're flashing. I'm going to move this one out of the way a little bit. We're going to put the door back on, then put our pressure probes on. You got to make sure it has a good connection because it uses that pipe to give you your reading. If you don't have a good connection, you're not going to get a reading. We now have our low and high pressure probes on. Everything is reading on the app. As you see, we have just over 110 pounds of pressure. I'm going to enter the CFM that we got last time I used the DAFM3, which was 1000. We'll see what kind of BTU output we get. We're looking at some of the information we're getting back. I put in our 1000 CFM. You can see our capacity is just under 34,000 BTUs. It is a 3-ton machine, so we're probably running right around 90% capacity right there. As you can see, target dry bulb is a little bit higher than our actual dry bulb. That means we possibly have low airflow, and because of my number up there, we can confirm that we have low airflow. You can see all the different measurements you get from the psychometric probes inside the house. And as you can see, it gives you a diagnostic. It says supply air dry bulb temperature is close to the target evaporator exit dry bulb temperature, which indicates adequate airflow across the evaporator coil. Although you can see that it is a couple degrees off. And if we got up into the 3 degrees off, it would have a diagnostic that said that we have low airflow. We are close enough to the target that it's not giving us that particular diagnostic, even though we know we have a lower than normal airflow. As you can see, our suction line is 61 psi. We have 180 psi on the liquid line. Our liquid saturation is about 25 degrees over ambient, which is pretty close because we're at 94 degrees and our ambient was 71. You can see our saturation is just above freezing because we're relatively cool inside. Superheat's pretty low at 2.1. This is a fixed orifice. Our subcooling is plenty high enough at 13. We don't have a target subcooling input. It gives us a 10 off the bat. So now that we've switched it to piston, it says fixed instead, which is a piston, or some sort of non-fluctuating device like a TXV is. Target superheat's 13.7. We're well below that because we have our low airflow. Our diagnostic says actual superheat is below the target superheat, which indicates an overcharge. Recover refrigerant until the actual superheat matches the target superheat. After corrective measures are taken, repeat measurement procedures as often as necessary to establish adequate refrigeration charge. Allow system to stabilize for 15 minutes before repeating measurement procedure. The issue is there that we actually don't have an overcharge because it hasn't gone beyond 3 degrees on the airflow differential. It doesn't think we have insufficient airflow. I know we do because we've measured 1000 CFM. It's just not far enough along for the Fieldpiece probes to say it's an issue, although we know it's an issue. That being said, we likely don't have an overcharge. This is a package unit. Unless someone's added refrigerant over the years, shouldn't be overcharged. I am willing to bet that there's no overcharge, it's simply an airflow issue, because if you look at the suction pressure, it's relatively low as well. And if we remove charge like it suggests, we would actually get into the freezing territory and it could cause a problem. As you guys can see at the bottom of the screen, we have an electrical section, target evaporator exit temperature, superheat subcooling section, and evacuation. I don't have anything to link up as far as evacuation or electrical. I don't have the SC660, and I want to say there's one more meter as well. Maybe it's the 460 that link up with Joblink. I don't have those particular meters, so I can't link those up, but if you do have those meters, you can get those electrical measurements live as well. I closed out the app and came back. I'm going to take a couple screenshots here, and then I'm going to input this information into Measurequick and see what it says. But as you can see, I have to enter the CFM. Looks like every time I close it out and reopen it, which is kind of a pain, but it's not the end of the world, just something that's kind of a hindrance to efficiency. You can see this is the Measurequick app. I input all the information, pressures, refrigerant, piston, see superheat and subcooling, liquid line and suction line temperatures. The interface is really attractive looking and really easy to use. This is some other information on the air side. Now we're looking at the air side performance. We can see 1147 estimated CFM. It's a little bit higher than our reading last time. Our probe placement may play a part in that. They were in the grills instead of near the machine, so that will change a little bit as you get closer to the machine. But there's a whole lot of information, just like the iManifold app that he created years back. We're talking about Jim Bergman here. He included a ton of information. This is the diagnostic section. It gives you a weighted interface. As you see, it gets the most likely down to the least likely. Some of those agree with what we've said already. Some of them I disagree with, like the refrigerant overcharge. But it's really cool. It gives you a whole lot of stuff, points you in the right direction. It's a superior app. If you like this video, please try out my podcast, HVAC Shop Talk, and the Tradesman Podcast. You can find these on Stitcher for Android, Podcast Addict for Android, or the podcast app for iPhone.